Okay, and the podcast serves as a vessel to bridge the gap between human isolation and connection. We are all going through something. However, what happens when we start sharing our stories? We will be able to connect, heal, and grow. Come with me and my guests on a journey that will uncover their okay and moment. I'm your host, Just Jess. Let's get started. Good evening, good morning, whenever you are listening to this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I am your host, Just Jess. Welcome to Okay and the podcast, where we are bridging the gap between human isolation and connection. And y'all, happy May the 4th be with you day. All right. So for my Star Wars fans out there, you know what time it is. For those that don't, it's disrespectful. So I think you need to catch up on your Star Wars game just a little bit. And you know how our episodes start with super random information, but it's entertaining and it's near and dear to my heart. With my guest today. And, Dougie, do you want to introduce yourself on the ones and twos real quick?
What's going on, everybody? My name is David Mayfield. I go by the name of Demay.
Oh, yeah.
Just big brother.
Yes.
Nickname Dougie.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super awesome. So there's a couple things, David, that one, we've seen multiple verses on Instagram. Something's happening on May 9th. You know what's happening on May 9th?
Absolutely not.
The aunties are coming to town.
The aunties?
Yes.
Who's auntie?
Jill Scott versus Erykah Badu.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh.
I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 4 p.m. our time. It's the day before Mother's Day.
Okay.
So if you had, if you had to do Jill Scott versus Erykah Badu and then list the tracks that would go pound for pound,
Ooh.
what tracks come to mind?
Well, Apple Tree.
Oh, okay. So you're going to Erykah Badu first?
Erykah Badu, yeah.
Okay.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
Okay, Apple Tree. Okay.
I remember her first album. My dad had the CD, and he was just bumping it all throughout his house.
Okay.
Let's see. Next Lifetime.
Ooh.
By Erykah Badu.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of my favorite all time. It might be like in my top 20.
Okay.
All time R&B songs. Called Tyrone. And I know it's a ladies' anthem, but I think that it shows the empowerment in Black women.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed that. And Bag Lady.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, that one just because it reminds me of the old, well, not old, but the old Nate Dogg, the sample that they used in that track. Actually, it was the Dre song from Chronic 2000.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah. And Jill Scott. Ooh.
Ballads all day. Ballads all day.
One of my favorite joints from her, Is It the Way? That one. It's like a wedding song.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like it's like real love.
I was gonna sing it right now, but I'm gonna save you for that. I'm not.
It makes you feel good to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. Living My Life Like It's Golden.
Okay.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's a catchy beat. It's cool melody on that one. Mm-hmm.
Two-step, barbecue, uncle with the sandals and the barbecue.
That's the vibe you get from Golden.
With the linen outfit on.
I love it.
Yeah. And why can't I think of any more? Long Walk. What is let's take a long walk.
Mm-hmm.
That was was that her first single?
That was on her first album, if I'm not mistaken. Who was Jill Scott?
I think that might have been her first single.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think more from that album in particular because, I can't think of any more.
No, there's a lot on that album.
Right.
That like really
she loves me. It's special.
I'm like trying to see what else is on there. And then when you think of, like for me, seeing both of them live on so many different jazz festivals or just, individual performances. Erykah Badu, On and On, Window Seat, Next Lifetime is on there for sure. When you jump back to Jill, Crown Royal, Golden, He Loves Me. There's just so many hits, and then how they actually perform.
Yes.
I mean, you got, Erykah Badu. I think I seen her last December or the December before that, and she was a good 2.5 hours late at the what is it? Not the Novo. Is it Novo? In Microsoft, the Novo concert area.
I don't even remember the last time I've been out, to be honest with you.
Pre-quarantine?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But yes, they are incredible performers. So I'm excited to see what they come up with and ultimately what they're going to give us, because I know they're going to give us a show which is going to be freaking fire.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah. I'm drinking water and minding my business.
You drink... those are the two things that you have control over.
Absolutely.
So, which is fantastic. So, we'll get into our okay and moment and why while you're here today. We're going to talk about who you are and who you're on the journey to be and how you discovered who you are as an individual, Mr. David Mayfield. So, let's start with the first question. So, how was life growing up? And I'm going to throw in the word, how was life growing up being adopted?
Okay. Well, it was good. When I was adopted, I was 8 months old when everything started. So it was as if I was already born into the family that took care of me. Mm-hmm. And I always knew. I don't know if I understood exactly what it meant when I was younger, but my parents, they both explained to me and told me, hey, you're adopted, you have another family, but we're your family because, we're taking care of you and we love you. And, and so, I didn't really have too many questions about it.
How old were you when they told you?
I don't think I have a specific date, but I've always known.
Okay.
As long as I could remember, I've always known. And so, yeah.
So you get the information.
Yeah.
And you set out on this journey. What were some unique experiences that you had during your childhood when it comes to being adopted?
That's good. I think that being adopted shows you that you don't have to be flesh and blood in order to make something your own. And my dad and my mom, they made the decision to adopt me. They chose me. They picked me out of the bunch, or however you want to see it. Mm-hmm. And and took me in under their wing, and forever grateful for it.
Yeah.
A unique experience. I remember, so growing up, my dad used to keep like monthly journals, mm-hmm. I guess, on his typewriter.
Yeah.
Show you my age.
You're not that old. You fine. You're all right.
Somebody doesn't know what a typewriter is. Ask Siri, okay?
Disrespectful.
Yeah. And so I just remember looking back at it and him being just excited to have a son. The story behind it, me getting adopted was my mom and dad, they had tried and they were unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm.
And they were told that my mom wasn't going to be able to have any children.
Okay.
And so they, both agreed that they were going to adopt. And so they adopted me and then ended up having a baby girl a year later.
Wow.
So about a year and some months. So, but yeah, every families have ups and downs, and but I wouldn't change anything because it's made me who I am now.
So with those monthly journals, do you still have them?
Yes.
Okay. And then how often do you go back and read them? And what's something that your dad has typed up that sticks with you now?
Well, okay, so it's kind of interesting. Well, because I remember a lot of the stuff that he's put on it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have a 5-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And watching her and her mannerisms are a lot of the things that my dad spoke of when I was a child.
Okay.
And how, and then when I talk to my mom,
mm-hmm.
and my mom keeps my daughter, for the weekend, and she's like, "That's you." Mm-hmm. Danny said this, and she was doing this. Yeah, that's you. And I'm like, okay, well, or when me and her mother went to a teachers conference.
Okay.
And she's saying, Danny's great. She's ahead of the schedule. She's very smart. But when she finishes her work, she doesn't really know what to do. And it's me. It's definitely me.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's definitely an active body, very friendly, talkative, full of energy. And that's pretty much how I was growing up. I felt like, now looking back at it, I want to say misunderstood, but one thing that I do notice in my daughter that is a strong trait is that she's very aware of herself.
Okay.
And that if she doesn't want to do something, she won't. And that's her dad.
I wonder who she gets that from.
Yeah, definitely her dad. I always looked at it where I would get in trouble. And, I know that I'd either get whooped or,
mm-hmm.
Get in trouble, get in timeout. But it was always a small victory for me
mm-hmm.
because, I knew I was going to get whatever repercussion it was, but you guys still didn't make me do what you wanted me to do.
You got mind games.
It's
like at the age of what?
It's, yeah.
10?
No, younger.
5?
Yeah, probably. I've had, it's been a while.
Oh my.
It's been a while.
Oh my. Okay. So you have basically, which is kind of cool to see a playbook of where you were at during that adolescence, and then obviously like seeing how your daughter's growing up and what those similarities are. Have you, and I don't know the answer to this, but have you connected with your birth family? And if you did, how has that process been?
Okay. We could talk about the journey.
Okay.
So a few years back, one of my friends, she was adopted as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just giving me information, just telling me that I should do it. She's like, you never know what could happen, and you're getting older. And so it took me a while to kind of wrap my mind around actually going for it. First thing I did was, I got an Ancestry.com account, and I did my DNA test, and then I waited for the results. And so I came back, and I'm looking at all this information, and they give you like DNA matches of cousins and second cousins and third cousins, and I really didn't understand what was going on, but I seen somebody, there was a first cousin, so I reached out to them like, hey, my name is David.
Were they local?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's just DNA.
Okay.
And so I reached out to a lady, told her my story. Hey, I'm adopted, just trying to get some information, trying to find my parents. And, she wasn't really receptive.
Okay.
I kind of had like a little bit of information from a friend. It was like possible information. And the only reason why I got some information is because on Ancestry.com you can look at family trees.
Okay.
And so since the lady wasn't really receptive, I just started taking last names. And then seeing if I can find any connections of, I knew that I was born in LA. And that I was at Kaiser Hospital, and then this is information I forgot to add in. It was a closed adoption, so I didn't have any information of my parents, my mom's name, last name, anything. All I knew I had siblings, I had brothers, and that was pretty much it. So, yeah. And so the lady, like I said, she wasn't really helpful. So I reached out to somebody else, and we ended up getting a last name, and found out like it was a lady that lived in Texas.
Okay.
Who had cousins who moved to California. And I still really don't know if the guy might be my dad or might not be my dad, but I've kind of put two and two together, and there's a possibility, but sent him a message and he never responded to me either. But maybe after like a few months of trying, I was kind of getting frustrated, and of course it's very tiresome, and it was just taking a lot on me. Mind you, going to school, working 2 jobs, 5-year-old, and so I kind of gave up. And then one random day, I go check, and then I get a new connection
on Ancestry.com.
On Ancestry.com, I get an email.
Okay.
And it's another lady named Sandra Johnson, and it said that she's my first cousin.
Wow. So
I'm like, oh, okay. So send the message. Hey, pretty much had a generic message for everyone who was, and I waited, gave them my Facebook information, said, call me, I'd like to see, who you are. And so then I get a message on Facebook, and come to find out it's my cousin, one of my first cousins, and the lady's Sandra was my aunt.
Wow.
It was her mom. And so, they were just on there to try to figure out if they're like mixed with Indian, because it's so funny. They all have like nice wavy hair.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to see if they were mixed with anything. And then here I am, I pop up like, hey, what's going on? So then they start doing a little bit of research and trying to figure things out. And then they figured out that their aunt was my mom, of course. And so, yeah, that was, it was, refreshing.
Yeah.
And it was, we just got to talking. There was a website on Facebook that I used that a friend had mentioned to me about. It's called Search Squad, and then California Adoptees and Birth Parent Search.
Is it a Facebook group?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there's birth parents and adoptee search for California. And so I would use these to try to see if I can get any information about me. Because, we tried to find, what my last name was or anything like that. So luckily with Ancestry.com, it has all these other platforms. And I was able to type in my first name because they never changed my name. My mom told me that when I was younger, they tried to call me something different. She wouldn't even tell me, but she said I wouldn't respond, so they just kept my name as David.
Did they keep your first name and your middle name?
No. So my middle name is my dad's, and that's a whole nother story.
Take your time.
Yeah, so on Ancestry.com, we typed in my name, typed in the year I was born, typed in the city that I was born, and I made it very specific search.
Okay.
So it came up with about 250 Davids. And then going through the search, I found two born in LA. And the first one was David Lee Crisp, 1984, maiden name Crisp, but it didn't have a father's name on there. And then there was another one, was David Lee Ellis, maiden name Crisp, same thing. So going back to talking to my cousins, I said, when I did the search, this came up, it said David Lee Crisp. I sent them to pick a screenshot, and then my cousins kind of froze for a second. They're like, David Lee Crisp. They're like, well, that's my grandfather's brother's name. I'm like, oh.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, it's crazy. So then, we're exchanging baby pictures. Now they're going through old photo albums.
Okay.
And they're showing me baby pictures of my older brothers. Yeah. And it was just pretty intense. So we talk, and then.
And this is all virtual?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. All on Messenger.
Okay.
So then, they told me that when they told my aunt about me, or when my aunt saw the message, that she was going to block me.
For what?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know. And so of course they convinced her, hey, this is our cousin, let's talk to him. And so, yeah, we ended up setting up a time to meet, and then, they really didn't want to get involved, because from their perspective, that my birth mother wasn't the nicest person.
Okay.
And so, it got to a point where everything halted, where, I thought that I was going to be able to get maybe information, maybe a phone number, and anything. And they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to be involved. So of course I felt some type of way. I'm like, well, you guys are involved now because I'm here. I know who you guys are, and which is cool. When they're just like, well, we don't want it to get back to us, and I said, okay, well, I want to thank you. We'll keep in touch. And so of course that was another roadblock for me. And so within a week, I get a text message from my pastor, and I've been keeping him in the loop.
Okay.
And he says, he just sent me a text message, said it's coming. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. He's like, don't worry about it. All right.
He got a word. Mm-hmm.
Couple of, maybe 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I got a random email with information. Don't even know where the email came from. Don't know how they got my email.
Oh.
Random information, or random email, excuse me, of mom's name, address, phone number,
Shut up.
house phone number, all of that. Out of nowhere. Like literally.
When you got the email, what was your first initial reaction?
I dropped my phone.
Mm.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
and I text him back like, hey, he's like, I told you. Told you not to worry.
Wow.
But, being a human being, we worry. We tend to
Yeah.
worry. It happens. And, I thought that I was at the end of the road of my search. And so then I got that information and I'm like, okay, wow. So I made the decision. I'm like, well, I don't want to call her. Like, I want to see her,
Mm-hmm.
And so me, my daughter's mother, her goddad, and my daughter, we made a road trip to Lancaster. I think it's Lancaster.
So she was almost put on traffic. So almost 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened?
All right.
I'm like,
So yeah.
My heart. I'm like,
right?
What happened? Okay.
And
Oof.
so, basically, we went out there on a Sunday, and before we left, I kind of made a little package. Got copies of pictures, like when I was a baby, playing football when I was younger, college, high school, just random pictures, put them in a photo album.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we'll go back.
Yes.
So when you got the information, you're about to go to Lancaster to meet your birth mom.
Yes.
Did you contact your mom before you went?
Ooh, yes.
Okay, what was that like?
She didn't care.
Okay. Okay.
She wasn't too happy about it. And it's kind of weird because me and her have a weird relationship as of today. And I don't, just a lot of things that had happened when I was growing up as well, dealing with her, and then when my parents split up. So my relationship and the way that I look at her now is completely different, especially now that I have a daughter.
Okay.
And so I don't really tolerate a lot of things, even though she is my mother.
Yeah.
I don't. And
you have to stand up for yourself, and you're an adult.
Yes.
Right.
And so even though that she wasn't, I felt like it was kind of selfish, because eventually I think the day was going to come for me to want to know who I am and where I come from. And so, of course, I guess it caught her off guard, but still, I don't, I feel like as a parent, when your kids are trying to do stuff for themselves to be better, you have to support them whether you disagree or not.
Yeah.
I think that it's important for kids and, or young kids, or, I was a grown adult, but for us to go on certain journeys for ourselves to figure things out. And then if they don't work out, then the parents are to say, hey, well, I was watching you and this is where you messed up, or this is what happened, or this is what I saw from my experience. But I feel like in that moment, you should be there and, be supportive. So that was kind of a damper. But, I just chose to do it anyways because, this is for me.
Yeah.
And so we went. And that was the longest 2-hour drive.
I bet.
It was crazy. And so we stopped at a CVS and I had a bunch of pictures, We got a photo album. I got a card and kind of put everything together, and it was a thank you card. So now in the card, I wrote, I know that as a parent, sometimes you have to make decisions for your kids that they may not agree with or may not understand at the time. And so thank you for making the hard decision, for giving me up. And, sign my name, put my phone number, and then, made a bag and, made it nice and neat and all that stuff. And, so we were off. And so the first time we went out there, my pastor kind of giving us some guidelines of how we should.
How did you mentally prepare for that? Is that what the pastor was trying to?
Well, it was more of, because us coming out there is like bombarding, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's the last thing that any of us wanted to do, or me, of course. But I was so anxious. I had to, there was like nothing that was going to stop me from getting out there. And so they dropped me off like at a nearby shopping center. And this is like, we got there maybe like around 2:00 in the afternoon. And they went and to go see her. And so I was at Starbucks, I remember. And like, I think I was having a vanilla bean frappe or whatever.
Get that sugar rush. Okay.
Yeah. And like, I couldn't even sit down. Like, my legs were shaking. And like, normally I don't get nervous for things. I'm pretty good with my nerves, or at least containing them, so that I give off the impression that I have everything under control. But at that very moment, I was like losing it. And, I'm like texting. I'm like, what's going on? This and that. So the first time they go up there, she wasn't there.
Okay.
Nobody was home. And so one of the neighbors were out. And so my daughter's mother asked the neighbor, hey, have you seen Deborah? We're here to bring her a gift. And he's like, oh, yeah, she'll probably be back around 6, just. And so so they came back, picked me up. We went and had dinner.
Okay.
Had a drink, to
calm the nerves. What was the drink?
Crown and Coke.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And so it was needed.
Yeah.
And so then did the same thing. They went back. It was like around 6:30. Okay. They pulled up. They see a car in the driveway. So she was in the car.
Okay.
So she kind of blocked the car. And then so my daughter's mom gets out. My daughter, she's like, goes to the door. Hey, Deborah. She's like, yes. She's like, hi, how you doing? My name's Deanna. I'm bringing you a gift from someone special. And so my mom was like, okay, well, who's it from? She's like, well, it's from David. She's like, well, David, who's David? She's like, your son David. And my daughter's mother told me that she kind of gasped and pulled herself together and looked at her and said, I don't have a son named David. And so they're kind of going back and forth. She's like, yes, you do. This is from your son. He told me to bring this to you. She's like, well, what is it? She's like, well, go inside, look inside of it and just see. And so she's like, well, I don't know who you are and I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
So she's being a little bit defensive. Now, mind you, her husband is at the screen door.
Okay.
So he's letting them talk for a little bit. And then so she pulls out the photo album, gives her the photo album. So now the husband is kind of creeping over, trying to be nosy, of course, as any husband would. And, so she starts going through the pictures. And then so.
Is she in any of the pictures?
No.
Like, oh,
no.
Like even from your older brothers or?
No. I didn't.
You didn't include those. Okay.
No, not at all.
I got you. Okay.
At this moment, she doesn't know that I even.
She doesn't even know that you're in the car. Nothing.
No, well, I wasn't in the car yet. I was still at the.
You were still at Starbucks.
Yeah, they brought me back to Starbucks.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
After dinner. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
And so then the husband
Mm-hmm.
comes up. He said, "Hey, is everything all right? What's going on?" And my mom is like, "Well, this young lady brought me this gift.
Mm-hmm.
Said I have a son named David, but I don't have a son." And so, the husband takes the photo album,
Mm-hmm.
and then he starts going through the pictures, and he's looking, and he's like, "Are you sure? It kind of looks like you."
Uh-oh.
And so they're like, they asked, "Well, where is he?" "Well, he's at the shopping center. He was nervous. He didn't want to just show up. So we'll go get him." So they go back, pick me up,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 minutes, pull up, and the car's gone.
From the house. Oh.
So then, I'm still a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
So then knock on the screen door, and the husband answered the door.
Okay.
I just apologize. "Hey, how you doing? My name is David Mayfield. I don't mean to bombard, don't mean to interrupt anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing some research for quite a while, and I've been looking for my mother, and this is where it led me to."
Mm-hmm.
And he was very understanding at the moment. He's like, "I don't really know what's going on. All I can do is talk to her
Mm-hmm.
and see, and then maybe she can give you a phone call, and then we can go from there." I said, "Okay, I appreciate your time." And then that was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back home. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And so we get home. So that was Sunday evening. That maybe a few days later, get a 661 phone number call.
Lancaster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I answer the phone, and it's her.
Ooh. Okay. What's
Yeah.
going through your mind?
Well, I knew from the
Area code?
area code
Mm-hmm.
that it was her.
Okay.
So I was kind of like jittery.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous, started breathing hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so, answer the phone, and she's like, "Hello, David?" And I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "Hi, this is Deborah." And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" She's like, "Well, my husband said that you came by and you said that I may be your mother."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "What year were you born?" And I'm like, "Well, 1984. Just gave everybody my age.
I mean, you can do
Hello.
the math. Be all right.
Right, you can do the math. May 21st. And she's like, She's like, "I don't remember being pregnant." I said, "Okay." She's like, "Well, I had a son who was 3 at that time, but I remember taking him to and from the hospital because he's hearing impaired."
Huh.
And so I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, she's like, "Well, I mean, I'd like to meet you." And I'm like, "What?"
But you just told me that you don't remember being pregnant.
Exactly.
So, okay, keep going.
So I'm like, "Okay,
Wow.
well, okay." And so I'm like trying to think of which day I'm going to be off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to be off for the weekend for like another 3 weeks." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, I can come Sunday."
Okay.
So set up Sunday. The next Sunday, went out there again. And
Did you go by yourself this time, or did you bring family?
yeah, so daughter's mom.
Okay.
And my daughter.
Okay.
And so we met, and then we went to Shakey's.
Okay.
And we just started talking, and just generic questions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then the husband intrudes, and he's like sitting at it's like we're at a booth, and then there's like another table, and he's sitting at the other table. So he's like clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Not really feeling what's going on right now. So he puts his 2 cents in, and he's like, "Well, since you popped up, our marriage hasn't been that good.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, just like that.
Did he move from his table to come over to give that information, or did he?
I mean, like the table was still, I want to say it was part of the booth,
Okay.
but it was like there's a space and then there's another table, if that makes sense.
Oh my.
And I'm like, okay. And
how long have they been married? Who knows?
You know what? Still, I don't even know.
Okay.
We haven't even got to that point.
Okay.
Yeah, I still don't even know. Yeah, it's crazy. So, I told him, as her husband, he needs to support her right now. I understand, like, he's not feeling the situation.
Yeah.
But it's not about him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he really didn't take to it, but, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And, so we talked, Danny played with her. It's my daughter, because I don't think I said her name, but Danny, my baby girl. It was cool. Okay. It wasn't too bad. It was kind of weird at first, but no, I'm a friendly person, so I kind of make odd moments or weird moments normal, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so it was a cool time to meet her. And so we finished eating, and then we're leaving, and my daughter's mom is talking to her, and the husband is like rambling, I guess you can say, kind of just talking off to the side. And I'm like, you all right? He was like, yeah, I just don't understand. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
He's like, well, she told me about the girl, but she didn't tell me about you. I'm like,
wait,
what does that mean? And that's all he said. So I'm like, okay. So then I leave, call my cousins.
Okay.
Hey, we just met, it was cool. They're like, oh, okay, we're so happy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right. I'm like, the husband mentioned the girl. Is there like, do I have a sister or something? They're like, yeah. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, she would be the oldest. We don't know the timeline, but apparently she gave up a kid, or, your sister, for adoption when she was very young. I'm like, oh, okay. So now, just kept that in my mind, of course.
Right.
And then, so, we began talking, and it was cool. Just, we were just kind of just,
like, are you doing weekly check-ins or just?
Yeah, I would just, so, I work for the post office. Most of the time I'm able to talk on the phone and not be bothered. So it was cool just being able to talk to her. And, but like after like months and months of talking, I noticed that like it wasn't really going anywhere. Like I wasn't learning about her,
surface level conversation.
Yeah, very vanilla.
Okay. Okay.
And so we actually, let's see, then we set up an actual date where I was going to meet my cousins and my aunts and have a barbecue and all this stuff. I'm like, cool. So we get to one of my cousins' house, and, I meet my older brother, Marcus.
Wow.
Who is 3 years older than I am. He's hearing impaired. Okay. And so that was cool.
Where was Marcus located?
He lives with my mom.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and then apparently I have an older brother named Eric, but he passed away maybe like 6 years ago. They said he was murdered in Chicago by police. That's all I know.
Okay.
And then my cousins had mentioned to me about having an older sister. So now that's always been in the back of my mind. So now when I met my aunts, and my cousins' husbands, and, my little cousins and stuff. And so my mom showed up, and she brought my little brother, and I had a little brother. Yeah.
Wow.
So my little brother, he's like 24 or 25.
And where was he located?
With her.
So you have two brothers in Lancaster.
Yes.
Wow, David. Okay.
And so we meet and it's cool. We're all hanging out and stuff. And then I thought this was super weird. She left, him and her left, and she took him to work.
Okay.
And so she was gone for like 2 hours, which was like, it was weird because, you know, this is the first time meeting my brothers and, you know, us all hanging out together, and like they couldn't get the day off, or they couldn't, or, you know, I don't know what the.
Yeah, this is kind of important. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so I thought that was kind of weird, but you know, it is what it is. So, that was a good time just hanging out with everybody. You know, I start learning from my cousins and my aunts. Everybody is, well, I guess we'll lead into this where, you know, so growing up, I always used to wonder, you know, I've always loved music, singing and instruments and drums and pianos and everything. And then learning from my cousins and my aunts, everybody on that side are musicians and singers.
You found your tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because it's always been in me, but I never knew, you know, none of my adoptive family were into music and stuff like that. I have a cousin, Dwayne, in Texas on my dad's side, who's you know, a producer and a rapper, and but other than that, that's it. And so I have cousins that are worship leaders. My aunts, are both they both sing in their church praise team or choir, play piano. My mom used to sing. So that's where my artistic side comes from, which is
that's incredible,
super crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then, so on top of that, so my great grandmother, her name is Eunice Wilson. She was actual famous in the 1930s, being I don't know what they call it. I have to look it up. But basically, at her time, she was considered the female Cab Calloway.
Okay, now that's super dope.
That's
super, super dope.
Yeah. So it's always been in my blood, which is dope to know. And like I've linked up with my cousins on Instagram and things like that, and I watch them, you know, sing, and it's pretty awesome.
Can I get down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cousin. His name is Jonte, and he's an amazing pianist.
Wow.
And he travels the world, and he leads worship, and it's crazy just to know, like, okay, well, it makes sense, you know.
What's one word you can use to describe how you felt at that barbecue?
Well, okay, so you remember the movie Antoine Fisher? Okay, so in the movie, you know, it's a story about a young man who's adopted, and he goes looking for his family.
Yeah.
And he confides in friends, and then with Denzel being his psychiatrist, who kind of helps him unlock some things that he didn't know that he possessed. I felt like that was like my story before I went to look for my mom. You know, so I always had this idea of whenever I met my family, it was going to be a big dinner, you know, and just laughter and just meeting my cousins and hearing. So being able to experience that was pretty awesome. Yeah, like I'm glad that I went for it, you know. So the journey has been pretty good. thus far. Now, plot twist.
Uh-oh. No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So now after we met,
Uh-huh.
so now let's say it's been like a year.
Okay.
And
holidays, all that stuff's passed
and
by.
and I kind of get a little bit frustrated now because I felt like, I don't say I was sparing her, but I was just kind of giving her time to get comfortable with me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, I really still didn't know who she was. Okay. And so, I just had to say how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
One conversation, and I told her, I said, we've been talking all this time. I said, I don't know where you went to high school. I don't know what you like to eat. Like, I still don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And then I told her, I said, till this day, you've told me that you have not, like, you still don't remember anything about me being born, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met a woman who's had a baby that doesn't remember their pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it was like an, crazy circumstance, that's totally, but you just saying that you don't remember is kind of odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now the legend of David Mayfield being born,
Mm-hmm.
my auntie told me that she gets a call. She lived in Montclair at the time.
Okay.
And my mom and my grandmother lived together. She gets a call from my grandmother saying that my mom is pregnant and she's stuck in the bathtub, but she can't get her out. So my auntie, or she was in labor, excuse me.
She was in labor in the bathtub and they couldn't get her out. Okay.
And so my auntie said, well, call 911.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my way. So auntie's coming from Montclair to LA.
So about, depending on traffic, like an hour some change. Yep.
And my auntie says when she got to the place or to the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
there's no baby.
So where did you go?
So apparently I guess my mom gave up her rights when she had me.
Okay.
And then paramedics took me away, and then that was that.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
My aunt said that she stayed,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that they're gonna go to the hospital, and then they never did. They said they never really talked about it, and then that was that. And that's the legend of David Mayfield.
That is the legend of David Mayfield. So, I mean, I'm thinking, do you know how old your mom was when she gave birth to you?
24.
24.
Yes.
Okay. So still young.
Still young.
And then she had 3 kids prior to you, right? Is it 3?
Yes. So.
Okay.
Well, we haven't we got to the good part.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
But if everybody was alive, it'd be 7 of us.
7.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to the plot twist.
Okay.
Okay. So
I thought that was the plot twist.
no,
it's okay.
that was just the build up.
Oh wow. Okay.
So like I said, a year's passed by.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And, just kind of express how I feel in that moment. And I just told her that I don't feel important, the fact that you don't remember anything about me, And then I asked her again, I said, I had asked her, I said, hey, do I have an older sister?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, no, you only I've had 2 younger sisters that passed away. I think one might have been a stillbirth, and then the other one was like an accident with the nanny, something crazy.
Okay.
And I said, are you sure? She said, yes. It's only Eric, Marcus,
Mm-hmm.
you, Cooley, and then the 2 baby girls.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. That was the last time me and her. Well, I don't say it's the last time that me and her talked, but I didn't talk to her for like a few weeks.
Mm-hmm. You have to process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now November 16th hits. I'm kind of like going through this phase, and I was like going through a lot of stuff. Just messing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the best way to put it.
Okay.
And so I took the weekend off from both jobs, and I went to San Diego, or was going to San Diego, to stay for the weekend, just kind of unwind, be by myself, get my life together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm packing my stuff, and then I get an email, Ancestry.com.
Yo, this
Yeah.
system. Okay.
Yeah. And it's from a girl.
Mm-hmm.
She said, hi, my name is Vivian. I just got on Ancestry.com, and I did a little bit of research, and I think that you might be my brother. And I looked at my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Threw my phone. I said, I knew it. I knew it. So that was my big sister. My big sister Vivian. And it was just crazy, the fact that I just asked my mom.
Yeah.
And she said, so, get out to San Diego now. And I I talked to my sister for like 2 hours. And so then I called my mom and told her, like, hey, you sitting down? She's like, yeah. I said, well, remember when I asked you about my sister? She said, yeah. I said, well, she popped up on Ancestry.com. She said, what? And I said, yeah. She said, well, that's impossible. I said, well,
how's that impossible?
yeah, it's DNA.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, that's the same thing you said when I popped up. Got quiet for a little bit. I said, I'll give you some time to process it. I know she wants to meet you, but so yeah. So it's crazy. Out of all of this, I found my big sister, and
Wow.
I see her, talk to her every day. She goes to church with me.
That's cool.
I have nephews, nieces, or a niece.
So she was local as well.
She lives in Ontario.
That's crazy.
And
that's crazy.
Her story, she didn't have any siblings.
Okay.
So it was cool for her to find me.
And so was she adopted as well?
She was adopted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just like me. So we share a similar story. I'm not too sure if it was a closed adoption or not. But yeah. Yeah.
So with all this happening, and this will be, my last question, because I know your story is continuing. Where are you at mentally with this information?
It's 8 o'clock.
I know my computer's rude. My computer's so rude. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Right now, I feel like I'm in a good space.
Okay.
One thing about adoption, or me being adopted, has shown me is that I can love anybody. And I try to put effort in like the youth, because of, they might feel neglected in places. And so I try to be that person, of joy or happiness, or somebody you can talk to. I feel like it's a gift that was kind of placed in me now.
Okay.
And yeah, man, you can love regardless of the circumstance, and I feel like I'm kind of a living testament of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's super good. Everybody, questions, comments, continue the story, please email us at okandthepodcast@gmail.com. I would like to thank my special guest, my big brother Dougie. Just super excited for you to tell your story, and again, bridging that gap, and thank you for sharing.
appreciate you having me.
No problem.
Thank you.
We're out.
Yay.